The Toronto Blue Jays have made a couple of roster moves, and one of them I think we're going to be really excited about. Will Wagner, one of the pieces of the Yusei Kikuchi trade. He's going to make his Blue Jays debut before long. So we'll break that down on this episode of Jays Digest, as well as a waiver claim that the Blue Jays made. So we'll have that and much more coming up next. Welcome in, everybody, to Jays Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Goss. Now, Nick, we've been talking about this Yusei Kikuchi return for quite a while now. And the three players that the Blue Jays got were suspected to be either MLB ready or close to MLB ready. Joey Loperfido didn't take him long to crack the Blue Jays lineup. They're going to give him every opportunity to go out there and prove himself before next season rolls around. And even though it's been sort of up and down, he hasn't been making too much contact. I think he's done some good things that may excite some Blue Jay fans that may warrant him being in a more I would say full-time role for next season. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see on that front. Another piece was Jake Bloss, who was by all accounts the headliner of that deal. He was a top 100 prospect in baseball. He immediately slotted into the number 3 spot in the Blue Jays farm system, and he's got great stuff. He's got a 4-pitch mix and someone that we could definitely see being a mid-rotation piece, if not next year, the year after that. So things are looking up. And the other piece of that trade felt like a bit of a throw-in. We weren't sure what we were going to get out of Will Wagner. We know that his baseball IQ was described as off the charts. His bat-to-ball skills were described as very good as well. But maybe there's a bit of power lacking. Maybe his defense isn't all that great. Maybe he doesn't have a one defined position that he could stick at the big league level. Well, those concerns, they're going to play themselves out here because he's going to get a real opportunity, and he has hit the ground running with the Buffalo Bisons, and he's hitting for some power as well.
Yeah, this is super exciting. I was not expecting this soon, but yeah, like you mentioned, we have some breaking news. So Thomas Hall dropped it yesterday. The move will be official today, and it sounds like Will Wagner will join the Blue Jays tonight in Anaheim, and he is flying up to meet him. Now, Will Wagner is not on the 40-man roster, meaning they're going to have to make a corresponding move, and that is De Los Santos, who had his first major league hit yesterday, had 2 hits, his first major league RBI, and baseball can be a cruel sport at times because he's sent down now in exchange for Will Wagner. But Peter, I'm super excited about this. We both mentioned, and you mentioned it at the video or at the time of the trade in the video, that Will Wagner might be one of the guys who has a very immediate impact once he gets called up. Some comparisons to Kevin Biggio here, but like I said, Luis De Los Santos was informed he's being sent down to AAA because they want to see some new players in the organization, and he said, it's okay, I'll keep working, doing my part, and I'm hoping to come back soon. And we'll probably, I'll discuss him in a little bit. Congratulations to him. He looks like a very interesting player going forward. But Peter, Will Wagner forced himself onto the MLB roster here. You look at his AAA stats with the Buffalo Bisons, over 1,100 OPS, and even with the Astros AAA, the Sugarland there, he had an 853 OPS. So he's been tearing it up. And you look at the OPSs since 2022, he has been an elite hitter at the major league level. Yes, or at the minor league level, sorry. The power is lacking, but this man gets on base a ton. He has over a 500 on base percentage with the Bisons. He had over a 500 on base percentage in Florida Complex rookie ball. This guy gets on base power. If he can tap into some of that, he has as high of a ceiling as a lot of the guys. But that's the thing. His ceiling at the time of the trade was seen as lower because of the lack of power, and a lot of comparisons to
Yeah.
Kevin Biggio with a bit of a higher upside there.
I'll give a comparison as well. Maybe Spencer Horwitz. I mean, Horwitz, what was holding him back in AAA for so long was the fact that he was a first baseman with not a lot of power. He's a left-handed bat who is not slugging the ball out of the ballpark, and he's an older prospect, as is Will Wagner. He's 25 years old, right? So maybe there's some of the same concerns, but it hasn't stopped Spencer Horwitz from being one of the most productive rookie hitters in baseball. He leads all AL rookies in batting average and in on-base percentage. So yeah, what he doesn't have in power, he makes up with bat to ball skills, and he makes up with getting on base. And I think Will Wagner has that same profile. He could maybe run into 10 to 15 home runs in a season if you give him full-time at bats, but he's going to get on base and he's going to make contact and do the right things up there in the box for you. So yeah, maybe there's a bit of concern when it comes to his athleticism, some concerns when it comes to what position he's going to play on the field. But I don't know, if you can hit, most major league teams are going to find a spot for you. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I don't know how he's going to do once he does come up, or how often he's going to play, but you got to assume that he'll probably get a pretty decent look here before the end of the season. And I'm just excited to see what he can do because yeah, it's those are pretty consistent numbers that you showed right there, Nick, and in the minors, like just solid across the board. Like you see a lot of OPSs of 800 and just you know exactly what you're going to get out of him. Now, can it translate to the big league level? Usually, guys with that kind of hitting profile, it translates pretty well. So, I don't think I think Kevin Biggio comparison is kind of underselling him. I'm going to give him a Spencer Horwitz comp because I think those two players have very similar profiles, and I wouldn't be shocked if Horwitz is an everyday player for them starting next season.
Yeah, Horwitz definitely. And the question, there is some defensive versatility questions, and just his ability defensively is shown in the minors to be a little bit iffy on that front. I'm very curious to see where John Schneider slots him in, but he could make his, probably will make his major league debut tonight in an interesting game against the Angels. And you mentioned it, just consistent. And I mean, they called up Spencer Horwitz. They were playing Daniel Vogelbach this whole first half of the year before calling up Spencer Horwitz. And maybe who knows where the season would have went if they would have just called up Horwitz from the start, because obviously, we see some players come up like Kobe Mayo struggle at the big league level right away. I'm sure he'll figure it out. But Horwitz came up on the other hand and just is absolutely dominated. And again, he's kind of struggled a bit as of late. All about adjustments, and I'm curious to see what happens with Will Wagner. But let us know in the comments your thoughts are on that. Very exciting
Yeah.
and a bit surprising. I didn't expect them to do this soon after only 7 games with the Bisons. But Peter, they also made a claim claiming Luis Frias off the Diamondbacks and optioned him to AAA. Again, not a huge move here, but the Jays are adding a lot of depth pitching. They need pitching. They're obliterated with injuries in the minor leagues. They obviously have claimed a few guys. Ricky Tiedemann, Brandon Barrier, all these guys are out for the season with injuries here. And if you're unfamiliar with Frias, he's played 54 games in the majors over the past 4 years. Hasn't really shown much. But I mean, this highlights more of the fact that, hey, the Jays are obliterated with injuries at every single level besides, I mean, the major league a little bit, the bullpen especially. But any thoughts on this signing? Nothing too crazy, but I mean, they're just claiming every arm they can possibly grab at this point.
Yeah, you got to get across the finish line in one piece if you're the Blue Jays. The last thing you want is a long-term injury to one of Eric Swanson or Chad Green or guys that are going to be big time pieces for you next year as you're looking to compete. So getting all these depth pieces like Tommy Nance the other
And we
day,
saw him, yeah.
or yeah, we saw him and had a decent outing yesterday against the A's, kept them in the game. But I mean, look, they're not exciting moves. They're not moves that are gonna vault you back into into the wild card race. But you need a lot of pitchers, and you can never have too many pitchers on your roster. So decent move. Like we'll see what he can do. I'm sure he'll probably either pitch today or tomorrow, the way that this season has been going. So we'll probably get very familiar with Luis Frias as the season rolls along here. But I just want to say one more quick thing on Will Wagner before we wrap up here. And yeah, we're not sure what we're going to get out of him, but I think he's got a major advantage in being an older prospect. It has helped Spencer Horwitz before, and I think the Blue Jays are going to be very happy with what they have in him. I don't know. I don't know if he could stick at the big league level. I don't know where he's going to play. My guess is probably second base. That's where he's played the majority of his minor league career, and Horwitz maybe slots into that DH spot. Who knows? But we'll see. He'll get an extended look, and I'm very excited to see if he's playing tonight. And hopefully, he can get on a groove here and make some decisions very tough for the Blue Jays heading into next season.
Yeah, a lot of silver linings. That's what we're taking out of this season at this point. And if Will Wagner can come out and really push, unlike like you mentioned, Joey Lapafito struggled a bit, so we'll see what happens with Will Wagner. We're seeing 2 of the 3 players already, and we saw Jake Bloss make his first start with the AAA Bisons the other day as well, so maybe he's going to make his way up in September. But let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this. Thank you guys for watching.